Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good day, everyone, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and also don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, through the birth portal, she's a dedicated mother of 8. In 2015, she earned a diploma in access to midwifery and became a clinical support worker on the labor ward of the NHS hospital. She has been passionately supporting births and teaching across 3 continents since 2012, drawing from her ancestral lineage as a midwife, including her great-grandmother, who was a mother of 12. She founded Our Hummingbird, offering unique birth education and immersion trainings coined as the Hummingbird Way. She was the first conscious birthing guide, and as a pioneer in conscious birthing, she guides expectant parents in a holistic, sovereign approach to childbirth, honors the first 42 days postpartum, and supports conscious parenting. Let's welcome to the show, or the seance, for the first time, Queen. How you doing? Welcome.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. What is the symbol of the hummingbird?
Oh, that's fascinating. Well, it starts because I was in Ecuador at the time, and I'd meet with the mother to see if we were a good fit, before helping her out. And a hummingbird would show up, and then I started to see the hummingbird appear, and so I consciously connected, like through the morphic field, with the hummingbird, and it told me that this was a good fit. This is what he was saying, like, oh, I'm supposed to be at their birth. And then as time went on, I could see that the hummingbird, what it showed me is that it's a vehicle for souls of the unborn. So the babies, before they were born, were able to communicate using the hummingbird to me. And basically, I thought the mothers were choosing me, but it was actually the babies that were choosing me.
Wow.
And they were basically saying that they know that I'm able to bring to them the birth that they want to come in, how they want to be born onto this earth plane, that I can do it. And every time the hummingbird showed up, it didn't mean that it was going to be easy. It just meant that I'd be able to do it. So yeah, and that's why the hummingbird.
Wow, that is cool. That is awesome. I like that. That's amazing. And in a sense, that's why you called it the Hummingbird Way, or Our Hummingbird.
Yeah.
And explain this conscious connection during pregnancy and birth, and what that difference is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know the difference very well because I've had enough children, and the first children, I could say that I was not consciously connected to birthing them. Even though I went through a birth and, I became a mother, it became apparent to me much later, around 2018, when I was having a bodywork session done, and the person could, really like touch you in a certain way, and then what the release of the fascia and the cells and the energy that was stuck inside of my body, it was showing me that the births, it was like something was happening to me, like something like a body snatcher, took over my body, and something was happening to me that I went through, but I was not consciously connected to it. And then with the difference when especially my sixth daughter, when she was in the womb, I literally got told, "You're pregnant." Huh. And I was like, "Oh," and I thought, how odd. Okay. And then it was like, "Yeah, you're pregnant, and you're not to tell anyone, and you're not to go, basically, like you're not to go to the NHS, the services." And I was like, really? And then I got shown in a dream, and then there were like 3 confirmations that said I was pregnant, because I thought, oh, I should maybe take a pregnancy test at least. And it's like, "Oh, ye of little faith, do you not believe, what I'm telling you?" And she really showed me about the pregnancy, where I was to give birth. She gave me all the details, basically. And because of the way that she communicated with me from very early, before it was even apparent that I was actually pregnant, of course it was confirmed later on, because I have a Doppler, so I listened to the baby's heartbeat. And then, of course, it's like, oh, wow, this is real. It's really happening. And that was the first time I'd ever had that encounter. So it was quite wow for me. Then being consciously connected, it was like I was aware of her presence. I was aware of her growing in the womb, but her voice speaking to me from outside, instructing me, leading me, guiding me at certain times, to the point of being in labor. Now, with her birth, it was me testing nature, because I'd worked on labor ward, and you could see like all the technology that's involved in managing birth, really. Mm-hmm. And I really felt that experience to be demoralizing and degrading and disempowering in many ways. And I really wanted to see this theory or this belief that I hold inside of myself, that we can do this naturally. Is it true? Does it really work? Or do we really need the midwives? Do we need the equipment? Do we need the technology? And, if you've ever tested nature and the universe, you find out that actually it's testing you. Yeah. And so my daughter was like 18 days overdue. And she was the 6th baby, and everyone was saying, "Oh, it's going to be so easy. You'll just sneeze and she'll come out." Well, it wasn't the case. I was in labor for 48 hours. Wow. And whilst I was in the birthing pool, and just like in this kind of spiritual, you've got like the observer, and the observer was up here watching everything happening. And I'm saying to the observer, like, "Why is it taking so long?" Because I expected I'd be in the pool for 2 hours and the baby would come. And 2 hours had passed and the baby still hadn't come. And what I was shown, what was said to me was, whatever you think you believe about birth, you don't know it. Let it go. And then I saw this like image of books just flying past my eyes and out of the window. Okay. And it's like, this is what it means to hold space. That it's like my hands, they were like released, and it's like I could see myself sitting on my hands. And I said, "What have I got to offer a woman?" And it's like, nothing. This is what it means to hold space, that you are in the energy of the birth and you're with it moment by moment, and therefore every birth is different. You cannot use a book to judge the birthing process or one person's experience to another, or even your own comparing. So you just have to let it happen. Mm. And as I said before, it's like the birth was happening to me, and I was very disempowered and detached from it, because I was very consciously aware and present of what was going on. And the birth was happening through me. And that was a big difference. And so it was this complete surrender of wanting to know and like being in the power of knowing, oh, this is what's supposed to happen. Then it's like, whew, just letting it go. And then I was shown it was cord care. So the reason why it was taking so long was because the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck. So at the moment when she was crowning, it's like a ring of fire as the baby's head is like passing through. And I could feel all of that because her head was really like, I had to birth it in increments, really. And because I was conscious of the cord care, my actual physical body and cells were literally screaming and wanting to push, because the body knows the relief that's, yours to be had when you push after all that pressure and that intensity and that build up, that, there's the release at the end and it's over. But the higher self, the observer was like, no, breathe, do it slowly. And so I listened to that and I consciously just breathed and did it slowly. And because I did it slowly and she came out ever so slow and like I said, almost in increments, her father could hold her head, like just position his hands around her head, not pulling, but just like holding her there, which was amazing that he did that, because when she was born and I finally tried to bring her up out of the water, the cord was around her neck. And not only that, it was a short cord. So the cord was wrapped tightly around her neck to the extent she had a bloodshot eye. That's how tight it was and how short it was. So anyhow, I listened to the body that was screaming to push. I could have, in effect, caused a hemorrhage because it could have snapped the umbilical cord from the placenta. So I could have caused harm to my baby or to myself. And so that was like, wow, it just goes to show that when we're consciously connected and we're listening and we're trusting the body and trusting the baby and trusting the process, that we can truly bring forth life. And where science or medicine or the system tells you that this is impossible, actually the metaphysical world and the spiritual world shows you that it can be possible. And it was literally from that birth that I went on to help many other women after that. When they heard my story, they were like, I want you to be with me. And then the hummingbird would show up and I'd be with them, and they always got the birth of their heart's desire.
Yeah. Now, are you brought in from people all over the world to assist?
Yes. So it just so happens that there's parts of the world that babies want to be born, and so mothers gravitate to. And I was in a place called Vilcabamba at that time. It's a very powerful energy vortex because of a mountain that's there, and that was a place that many women were gravitating to from all over the world. I'm not sure that I helped anybody that was Ecuadorian. They were from other parts of the world in that vicinity. And then I've supported women in Portugal, but again, from all over the world. And I've supported women in Bali, but again, they weren't Balinese, they were from all over the world. So yeah.
Now that seems to have been being a midwife with midwifery. I get my M's and W's mixed up. That this is a craft and trade that has died out over the decades. I'm being conservative, saying decades is probably more centuries. But do you see this becoming more mainstream and kind of being reintroduced into our different societies worldwide as we move into, I wouldn't say, lack of a better word, new age, being recognized again and stepping away from the general healthcare system, because the general healthcare system seems to treat everybody alike.
Yeah.
But as we're not, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is a one-size-fits-all. And there are many women who do find security and safety in that method. And that's okay that they choose that and that they get their wish upheld. And I also believe that there's space for everyone. So there's people like me who exist in the world that model doesn't fit. And we should be able to choose and decide that equally that we would like to have our birthing process honoured and upheld and our wishes upheld, and that we could birth in the comfort of our own homes, for example, or anywhere we choose to birth, and that could also be a possibility as well, a reality for us. And sadly, the more that this birth trend it is happening, it's happening underground, and it's looking like something that the mainstream is really shunning, not wanting to assimilate at this time. And you'd think that they would get better, but actually the birthing situation, because I've been out of it for so long now, I almost expect that I'll hear that it gets better. But the stories, the level of trauma that's induced, and the horror stories, I mean, it's worse now than I think back when I was having a baby, you know, when I went 19 years ago, 24 years ago actually, when I gave birth to my first child. It's actually got worse and more hands-on in some countries, that if you choose to birth outside, you can be prosecuted.
Yeah. Not to get conspiratorial, but it just seems like it's a power. It's more of a power grab and more of a control within, you know, those that run the societies and stuff like that globally, and keeping track. You know, when we're all taxpayers. You know, they want to keep track of the taxpayer.
They really do.
Yeah, it's like check. All right. But there was something else that just popped in my mind too. It was like, oh, what was that? I don't want to lose it. What is the comparison if you were to? What is the difference between what you do as a midwife to the mainstream midwife?
Good question. So a mainstream midwife, she's really trained to use equipment and to administer drugs. So the emphasis is mainly on pain and being able to limit the pain that a woman feels. When I was working in the hospital, there was a woman that was being prepared for an epidural that had worn off. And I said, oh, now that it's worn off, would it not seem sensible to just allow her to birth without like having to top it up again? And the feedback was, that's cruel. Yeah. So the attitude and the mindset that they're trained with is that, like, to a woman having labor in pain is cruel. So with myself, what I support women during their pregnancy to comprehend is how the pain is something that you use. It's a tool for the woman to use, and it's for her, because the more intense the wave, the greater the dilation of the cervix. Yeah. So really, no pain, no baby, right? So the thing is to, rather than try to escape the pain, detach from the pain, ignore the pain, or resist the pain, what we need to be doing is leaning into the pain, utilizing the breath, optimal breathing. And then when you're able to surrender to the pain, there's this beautiful thing that can take place where you go into the pain and it's like you move through and you come out on the other side. And that's being called orgasmic birthing, for example. So a woman can really give birth in bliss. It can be a very orgasmic experience for her if she's able to use that pain to birth her baby, rather than seeing it as a bad thing. So what I do is I first of all help women to really reprogram their mind and rid their mind of all of the negative connotations associated with birth. And they're all lies, really. So what we do is we let go of the program that's a lie and program the mind with the truth. You know, that birth is a natural physiological process, that each contraction supports me and brings me one step closer to my baby, that I'm able to utilize the breath and breathe through. So they start to reprogram their mind with the truth about birthing. And then what I also do is teach women to connect with their bodies like their own intuition, which is your inner teacher. And I don't believe there's like a super way to fine tune one's intuition, that's given to us than birth and becoming a parent. But especially for the woman, it's such a fast track because she can start to listen to her body, and the more she trusts it, the more she's able to fine tune it. And then once she's developed her own intuition around her pregnancy process, she'll then use that for the birth, and then she'll use that and it'll go on into parenting. So I'm really like training the woman more than anything to be in touch with her inner teacher and to trust that. And then to utilize the breath. So every mode and method I use is very natural. It respects the metaphysical and the spiritual. And the things that the establishment use, the opposite of that, the unnatural. So it's about pain medication and surgeries and things like that.
Yeah. I've always, before I hint into this or say, before I say this, the next thing is, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth when you said the pain needs to be there. As far as administering all this pain medication, I feel, I don't know if you can agree or not, or let me know if you do agree. All these years that we have been administering all this pain medication and all these drugs during birth might be the reason why we're having this pandemic of issues, child growth issues, learning disabilities, autism. I mean, the list can go on and
Right.
on and on and on and on and on. What do you feel with introducing all these drugs? Because I mean, we've been doing this since the beginning of time, and all of a sudden, we don't need to feel it.
Yeah. Well, it's true. And the medication and the medicating of someone, it's not really about the being that you're with. It's about you, i.e. the midwife. And let's think about this also. We're thinking about it in terms of birth, but let's think about it as in death and dying as well. That what they'll do is give the dying person morphine, right? Yeah. They give the woman an epidural or pethidine or something like that. And what it is the midwife, they are looking at a person in pain, and what you want to do is you want to make them feel better so you can feel better. So it's about not wanting to be in the discomfort, watching someone in pain and feeling powerless to be able to help them. So is it really about, I want to help you, or is it about, I want to help myself? And so a lot of these ways in which we do things is to make their job easier. Oh, well, I can just put you on a drip. You can be pain medicated. I can get off and do some other things. And, and that's how it is. And then it's easy for me, and I don't have to suffer watching you suffer. So first we need to literally drop that and start to really show up and be with people, with the birthing woman and with the dying person. But this can also be like a metaphor for life. How we'd use the overuse of drugs and medicating our way through life. It's a detachment. It's a way not to feel. It's a way not to go through it. But isn't it, when we allow ourselves to experience life, there are lessons in it. And even though it might be horrible, if we just let the horror be, it's a teacher for us. And then we get all this golden nuggets and all this wisdom. And then when we apply it on a daily basis, our life shifts and it changes our life. So we don't have to go through that trial again, or at least the pain is minimalized, right? Yeah. So yes, it's just a response, to life, to birth. And it does have a knock-on effect. Babies that are born after a mother's took a pethidine injection, their babies are often born lethargic. And so they're quite sleepy, they can be floppy, and then they'll need assistance with breathing and so on and so forth. So the fact that they say it doesn't affect the baby, it really does. And, you said a bit before about the birth, and you'd mentioned the taxpayer. But right there at birth, by fracturing a child's nervous system, you're splitting them, you know, and you're splitting them from what? The God self. Because the baby comes in whole. It's come from the cosmos. It's the closest thing to source ever. And it comes in that way. And if we administer drugs, if we do these things to these babies, we're disconnecting the physical being from itself, from its God self, essentially. And somebody like that is easy to be enslaved. They're easy to, through medication, through the vaccinations, because it doesn't stop there. The vaccinations, they also help to disconnect the being from themselves. And that's why you are seeing a rise in things like autism, Asperger's, and a whole myriad of issues that we weren't really seeing years ago, or we still don't see in indigenous tribes people.
Yeah. Some areas of the world you have yet to see it.
Right.
And that's the thing, is like, why aren't we studying these cultures? Why aren't we studying? Granted, we probably don't have to, because we already know the answer to it.
Right.
But when you explain too the birthing process, not only is the birth important, but the conception is
correct.
Important. You know, the use of drugs during conception. It's like, you know, who knows what getting, you know, more even into the metaphysical.
Yeah.
But seeing the whole birthing process metaphysically too is treating it as this, like, I almost look at it as a true traditional Buddhist meditation, where the pain, you embrace the pain, like you jump into the waterfall and just let the river take you. That's it, home. And be in the full presence of the omnipresence and all the light, and taking advantage of that. What can you share as far as the mothers that you've worked with thus far, and the connections that you've connected with, and any breakthrough stories that you'd like to share?
Well, the mothers that I tend to connect with are mothers like myself, who really like have a heart's desire around the type of birth that they would like to have, and they are feeling, you know, a lack of a despondency around the medical service, that it's not able to provide what it is they're looking for, or they've been fearmongered by it, or they've been mistreated by it, or something like that. So when they come to me, it's like a breath of fresh air, that they can sit in front of someone, tell them how they feel, and someone like me looking back at them is like, well, yeah, you can have that. Yeah. And that it's in the woman. You know, because again, the myth is like, oh, it's the midwife, she's the one that delivers the baby. Absolutely untrue. The woman delivers the baby at best into the midwife's hands. But why does she even need to interfere? Because the baby can be delivered into the woman's own hands. The baby can be delivered into the father's hands. You know, it's whatever the woman desires. So really, it's the woman that's doing this. It's her body, it's her mind, because the psychology affects the physiology. So the way she thinks is the way that she'll feel, and what she tells her mind, believes about the birth, is what she'll bring into her reality, essentially. So I'm meeting women that are like that, and if they're not like that completely, that's why in meeting me they get to connect with themselves. So yeah, and in terms of breakthrough, I found it. I've got a bit of a funny story. I was supporting someone who was really systematic, but it was happening at a time that was around the COVID time. Yeah. And they were quite strict Germans, but they knew they didn't want to go to the hospital because it really got mad, you know, during COVID, like dads weren't allowed in. There was so many terrible things going on. And so they just knew that they didn't want to go into the hospital. Anyway, I ended up arriving just after the baby was born because it happened so fast. But her placenta was retained. So I was massaging her uterus. It took like 4 hours, and finally the placenta was delivered as well. And the baby, we were trying to get the baby to drink milk. And in the house, they had like lots of cats, like so many cats, and the cats would climb on the sides and everything. And so again, like we think about like birth, hospital, sterile environment. This was just like the opposite, the opposite of a sterile environment. And so like the cats would eat things off the side and things like this. And the father saw the placenta as like absolute yuck, and the placenta was on the side, and he was like, "Oh, this is disgusting," kind of thing, like, "Get it out of here, it's really horrible." Yeah. So I was trying to explain to him, about the placenta, and I thought, wow, the irony, how the contrast, between the way that I see things and the way that he sees things, because for me the placenta is sacred. Like, you've just put the baby's twin on the side, and that's sacred, and yet, he saw it as trash, and that's where it needed to be, like out of the house, off the side, and yet I think that like cats climbing on the side, eating stuff over the side is a bit yucky, but that was just normal and commonplace for them. So I was like watching this contrast as it played out. But the mother, she really wanted to breastfeed, and the father was just like, no, none of my children have ever been able to breastfeed. He said, we just need to get the baby some milk. And the pressure got too much, and she was really sad. And then eventually he went and bought milk, and he gave the baby the bottle, and the baby sucked on the bottle, and he said, "Yes, Nestle is king."
Oh, man.
And I was like, oh my word, because I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And the thing was, it taught me, look, if I was to bring my way to them, I could maybe get them to shift for the time that I'm in the house. But as soon as I go out of the door, they'll revert back to exactly what it is that they know and what they're about. And that really was a breakthrough for me, because it was showing me that like there was a niche that I was looking after, and it showed me that I could look after anybody really, and that I didn't need to be judgmental, and that I could honor other people's ways of being and doing, even though it were not as my own, that I could still go in, bring some value to that family, because they got what they wanted, essentially, the home birth, the way they wanted it, and, a placenta that was retained, born, that they didn't need to go to hospital, they didn't need to take drugs, and, so they got what they wanted, and it let me know, yeah, you can do this. They don't have to be spiritually involved people to support them in birth.
Yeah. And that brings up the question too, the importance of breastfeeding. There's been this huge thing over the years, decades. That the establishment has been trying to convince people that, women that, you don't, or mothers, you don't have to breastfeed, blah, blah, blah. Here's, here, what is it, Nestle? I think it is Nestle. Yeah, Nestle. That's how they started their business, is breast milk originally. Yeah. And now it's like nobody wants to breastfeed. Yeah. But what do you think about the importance that maybe this should be something that we need to go back to, because it can contribute to better health?
Completely. And all the studies really show that as well. And there are certain stages when the baby's being born of what informs the gut biome. So being born vaginally is ever so important rather than C-section, because when a baby's born vaginally, the compression of the head and the lungs and everything triggers the lungs, so that the baby can clear its lungs by itself. Yeah. And that's a very important process. If you've not been allowed that, that's why children who are born by C-section, for example, have a higher rate of asthma, for example. Yeah, there's a correlation. So there's that, but the baby is getting some of the the mother's biome, the flora and the fauna, through its mouth, nose, eyes and ears, being born through the vaginal canal. So that's the first place that the baby gets it. And then the baby comes up onto the belly. So the second place that the baby gets it is through the skin. So it's getting the fauna, the flora, the cellular exchange, the information. So it's formed in a way that's taken in, that's assimilated by the baby's entire microbiome, basically. And so that's the second way that the baby gets it. And then I've had the pleasure to see this live. The baby, it can literally crawl. Imagine this, just born, crawl up its mother's stomach and find the breast all by itself, being left uninterrupted to do it. And it does this thing, and it's doing it, and it licks its hands, and it's called signaling. So it's like it smells the hands and licks the hands, and it's informing itself, and then it moves, and it moves up, and it will literally come onto the mother's breast all by itself. And then that touching of the mouth and around the nipple, it's informing the child. And then the sucking of the colostrum is the next thing that informs the gut biome. So a child then is literally set up for life, because that thing that we call an immune system, it's a learning system. That's what it is. So it's learning, and we've informed it at those very early stages by allowing the microbiome to be formed, and the gut to have all the healthy bacteria in the gut, so that the child then will not get digestive issues and other. I don't know if you understand the correlations between the gut and psychology syndrome. Yeah. There's a really good book that talks about it. So it all, like dis-ease, when you're out of balance, it starts through the guts. So what you put into your mouth, what you eat, what you drink is ever so important for your overall health and the homeostasis of your entire being. Well, this is why breastfeeding is so essential, and to allow for that process. And then the second thing that is for the bonding between the mother and the baby, being skin to skin, the baby breastfeeding, the mother looking at the baby, it increases oxytocin levels, which is the love hormone. So then the bonding can happen. And I will go on just to say that beyond that, you really want to let that mother and baby stay together for 42 days, undisturbed, caring for the mother, giving her all the food, all the love and care that she requires at the bedside, so that bonding process and that learning process between mother and baby can continue undisturbed. It's ever so important to have the womb outside the womb for the 42 days of that baby. And, and mothers, if they're given that time and that grace, they'll find breastfeeding super easy. But mothers who are interrupted or stressed or made to feel that they can't breastfeed, of course, they could give up much sooner.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. A couple of the things that you mentioned, it's like, I didn't know that. Especially the differences and what you can see physiologically with people that have been either born vaginally or through C-section. I know a lot of people that have asthma. Of course, that's something I'll ask them next time.
Interesting.
C-section or vaginally born. Why would you know? Why would you want to know? Oh, just checking. But yeah, that is interesting. But wow. Now, before we move, before we wrap up the show, too, is give out some of your information, how they can find you. Now, scrolling on the bottom for those who are watching, it's ourhummingbird.com. But, also, how can they find you? What can they expect on your website and some of your services?
So at the www.ourhummingbird.com, you'll basically get to understand a little bit about me, what services I do provide, and like even the little story about the hummingbird, it's on there. So it takes a bit of a journey through me and my life and how I came to become a guide, because I actually don't call myself a midwife, because I'm not registered as a midwife. I'm actually a guide, and what a guide is, it takes the best qualities of the midwife, obviously understanding how to be with a woman in birth and attend to an emergence if and as and when it arises, because everything's an emergence really, but knowing how to respond to that, and then how to make the right call. So they're the qualities of a midwife that I bring. And then it's merged and married with the best qualities of the doula, the one that holds space. She's able to advocate for the woman, love the woman through the labour, and massaging her and things like that. So I train people as guides. So there's a bit about my training there if people want to learn. That's what I call the Hummingbird way. So just really to learn from me the way that I did it. So it's all experiential. And then I've got the Mama Haven on there, which is a project that I'm fundraising for that seeks to serve women. I'm trying to buy a property that women can come to honour the 42 days postpartum and look after them, and have students come so that they can learn how to care and show up for postpartum women. So that's what the Mama Haven project is about, and that's on there as well.
Wow. That's cool. And I wish you all the luck on that. I really hope it happens. Definitely. We need something like that everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Sanctuary, that 42-day sanctuary. I mean, you can either birth at home or on the sanctuary, and then have your 42 days and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it's very important. Now, before we go, what would you like to offer as a takeaway for our audience today?
An offer as a takeaway. Yeah, so the whole birth thing can be a metaphor for life. And when we have tough times, or we feel or experience things that are painful, that we could lean into them and to see what they have to teach us, and allow it to expand our being and expand ourselves into more conscious awareness. That if we're able to do that, if I'm able to impart that you could even watch your thoughts and train yourself to think in a way that's conducive for you, that would be a very beautiful thing. And you can apply it to birth, you can apply it to death, and you can apply it to everything in between.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's we need to be a little bit more conscious nowadays. Seems like everybody's paying too much attention to these things. And not looking up as often as they should. There's a lot happening up there.
Yeah, it's so true.
And looking in front, and forward is the future. That's the past behind you. And it's just people are not conscious. Situational awareness is very important.
Yeah, it helps you to make healthy decisions and make the best choices, because even a conscious choice, a choice where you've made it through your intuition, it's never wrong. No matter what the outcome is, it's always right for you. Yeah. It's the only time that we get upset, it's a betrayal to ourselves if we ignore our intuition, and then we go, oh, I knew I should have turned left. My body told me I should have turned left, and I turned right. Oh, because we've betrayed ourselves, and then we feel frustrated, right? But if you say, I knew I was supposed to turn left, this has happened on the path, then it's like, then it was supposed to happen because I followed my intuition. So whatever it brings, it was for me. And there's a learning in that, and that's beautiful.
It is. Yeah. Ooh. Queen, Blessings, my friend.
Thank
Blessings
you.
in everything that you do. It is so, so important that we got to pay attention to how we bring, the children into the world, and how important it is to be conscientious of what we're doing, how we do it, when we do it, where we do it. And I mean, everything. It's just everything is so important. And I stress to everybody who's watching and listening to this show, this particular episode, reach out to Queen. Go to ourhummingbird.com. If you got any questions, or you're looking forward, or looking into planning parenthood, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Queen, blessings again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for joining us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much.
You are very, very welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. And until next time, we will see you then.